Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Bahashem, Rakahudash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone at Ruwal, and Shalom unto the 144,000 elect men of the nation of Israel, and the rest of the elect that are destined to be saved. I'm the brother Kalab, and I'm from the GMS UK London Forecasters Camp, coming back at you with another lesson to help edify those of which I spoke of. So this is going to be a quick one, just a little testimony story, but Lord, when it will be edifying. So I went out to get something to eat for dinner, and I decided to go to what you Americans would call a mall. Over here we call a shopping center or whatever. So I went up to a shopping center where there's quite a few shops and places to eat. So I decided that I wanted to get a burrito because they have a place which sells some Mexican food up there, and that's what I was in the mood for. So I went to get that, but unfortunately I got there a little too late. And they were just closing up as I arrived, so I couldn't get that. So I thought, what else can I eat? I didn't really feel like a great deal. So I thought, you know what, man? I'll just go up to the Nando's and get some chips to take away. I didn't feel like having a full-on chicken dinner at Nando's. I just wanted to get some chips and dip. I mean, when I say dip, I mean move, not actually dip, chips and dip. So like you Americans might be confused by the terminology, but yeah, I just wanted to get some chips and leave. So I went up to the Nando's, right? And as I walked in there, there seemed to be quite a few people at the till point holding their receipts in their hand looking frustrated. And the guy behind the counter looked like he was being apologetic, saying, look, if you want to wait, you can wait, but we've issued you a full refund. So I don't know, something was going on. Maybe they ran out of chicken, as they sometimes do, or something like that. I don't know what it was, but you know, the guy behind it was being apologetic, and people were standing there with their receipts in their hands. So something obviously went wrong, and they were issuing refunds to the people. So eventually, it was my turn to get to the counter. So I got to the counter. I just told the lady, "Look, can I get some peri chips to take away, please?" And she says, "Okay." And I ordered it, and I said, "Where shall I wait?" And she said, "Oh, just you could just wait in that area over there." So I went and I sat down at one of the tables in the area that she said to wait in. And I was just watching what was going on, you know, people going up to the counter and whatnot. And I was just watching the whole thing and just thinking to myself, during this time, there was a girl, I say girl, woman. There was a woman who was a young woman who was probably in her mid-20s. She was standing up there, and she was also hanging around the area near the till point, looking a little bit frustrated, but her mouth was moving and her hands were gesturing. So I thought, what's going on here? So I was sitting in as you say, laying back in the cart, just watching the scenario unfold. I was thinking, what's going on here? Is she talking to herself, or is she talking to someone? I couldn't quite make it out, but she looked like her mouth was moving and her hands were gesturing. And I was looking at it and trying to work out, is she on the phone or not? I didn't see a phone in her hand. But the more I watched, I did see some white earbuds in her ear. But I couldn't work out if she was actually talking to someone or if she was just pacing up and down, talking to herself in frustration. Because something I've learned to observe in my short life on this earth is you've got to be very careful of women who talk to themselves out loud. That's a clear sign that they've got demons on them. And hey, God help you if you get into an argument with them and you see that kind of you know, the demons manifesting them more. You know, I've kind of learnt that that's a very big warning sign. So I was sitting there, and she didn't really notice me because I was kind of inconspicuous. I didn't draw any attention to myself, but I was just, you know, watching and trying to work out what was going on. Now it just so happened that you know, something like chips is a very quick order. Usually you just order it in like within like 3 minutes. They'll give it to you and you can just leave. It's not like you're ordering a full, you know, dinner, full meal. It's just, you know, something quick and simple with the chips, yeah? But I was waiting there, and it turned out that I was waiting there for fucking 20 minutes. I was thinking, this is ridiculous, man. How am I waiting 20 minutes for just some chips? But all throughout this time, this lady kept walking up and down, not too far away from me, looking like she was talking to herself, and I was watching her. Now, I'll describe her. She was a Southern Kingdom Jake woman, a so-called, you know, a so-called black woman, right? Um, but she was decent looking. Now, I'll be honest, that's not usually my at least on this side. I don't usually, me myself personally, I don't usually deal with the so-called, so-called black woman because I've never I've never been able to see past the curses and the attitude and the stink ass, personality that is very off putting to me. So I've never really been into them too tough on this side. But in the kingdom, yeah, when they're in their right mind, I'll be more than happy to deal with them. But on this side, I usually give them I stay far away from them in that respect. But in the spirit, I was just saying to myself, you know what, man? Why don't you find out the answer to your question? Find out if she's on the phone or not, because it would be interesting to know whether she actually was just pacing up and down talking to herself for like 20 minutes, or if she was actually talking to someone, because it's really hard to tell, because sometimes she's standing there and her mouth weren't moving and her arms are folded, then all of a sudden she's like gesturing with her hands and looking like she's talking to someone. So I'm thinking, this is curious. So eventually I thought, okay, I'll do this, right? So before I went up to the counter, I walked over to her. I said, "Excuse me, miss." And as soon as I said that, right, she turned and looked at me, right? And it's as if you could see the shutters falling down, like when a shop's gonna close and they pull the shutters down. That's like psychologically, you see the shutters just slamming down, and her eyes glazed over, right? And it's like her voice dropped a good 2 octaves lower in bass than what it was when she was talking to herself. And I said, "Excuse me, miss," right? And she goes, "I was just wondering, I saw you, you look like you're talking to someone. I was wondering, are you on the phone or not?" I said, "Yeah, I'm on the phone." And she had this kind of look on her face, like, when the forehead's slightly tilted down, so the eyes aren't looking to you straight. They're kind of like, it's kind of like a snare, and that defensive, nasty stink attitude. See, this is the thing. I've always been able to sense this. The so-called nigger woman has a lot of animosity for the so-called, dark-skinned black Israelite man. And I've always sensed it. And that's always been something that's really turned me off. And another problem is that sometimes the so-called nigger woman, they have a problem with my presentation. For example, I just so happen to speak with a very English accent. And some of them don't like that, because it's like, who does he think he is? What black man talks like that? He's so fake, he's putting it on. They talk this kind of shit, right? And it's like, well, this is just how I am. This is just how I learned to speak. This is how I've always speak. This is how I've always spoken. It's not something I try and force. This is just my natural persona. It doesn't mean I'm a fucking... Well, I am a nerd in a lot of senses, and I'm not ashamed of it, because I like a lot of nerdy things. I'm into comics and science fiction movies and video games. I like all that nerdy stuff, but at the same time, I can kick it with the cool kids too. I'm not a fucking some fucking stiff, no salt personality type of guy. I've got a lot of interests, so I'm not confined to one realm, even though this just happens to be the way I speak in everyday life and everyday situations. It's not something I put on. But a lot of women have sometimes had a problem. Well, not a lot of women, but particular women have had a problem about that aspect of my character, and it rubs them up the wrong way. And it usually tends to be, the so-called nigger woman. So yeah, she had this defensive, like, stink off, attitude. And I was like, okay, cool. I was just wondering, because I saw you looking like you're talking to someone. I was just wondering, and she like she had this like, and what, like, look in her face. But I said, okay, thank you. I turned around and I walked away, and I didn't even look back, because the thing is, I wasn't interested in her. I'd say she was about, on a scale of 1 to 10, I put her at about a 7. But it's like I wasn't about to lose any sleep over the outcome of that interaction. I just wanted to find out if she was actually talking to herself or if she was talking to spirits, as I said. But when I was walking away, I thought to myself about it, right? And I thought to myself, you know what? Earlier on in life, that interaction might have hurt me. Like, for example, when I was between the ages of 16 to 21, you try and approach girls and they've got automatically defensive attitude to you, like you've just burnt them with hot water just because you ask them if they're busy or you ask them their name or whatever. You try and approach them. Early on in life, that would have been like, I'd walk away from it. I think to myself, but why were they so hostile towards me? And like, I didn't mean them any harm. And like the song from Coldplay, I never meant to cause you trouble. I never meant to do you harm. It's like you try and be nice to people, and they take your kindness and return it with hostility. Early on in life, that would have really bothered me. I'd go away and I'd sit down and I'd meditate, and I'd be like, but why? But why? But why? What did I do? Is there something wrong with me? What did I do wrong? And usually, the thing about I use the term nice guy, right? When you're a so-called nice guy, I'm using the term nice guys in the world, like, girls tend to hate nice guys, but bear with me while I explain this. When you're a so-called nice guy, you tend to take on more on your shoulders than you should, in the sense that things that aren't your fault, you'll take responsibility for. Now, this can come from actually things you might learn early on in life about interacting with people psychologically. For example, if you live in an environment where you're surrounded by people who might be emotionally volatile, oftentimes you'll bend over backwards just to keep the peace, with a P. And if you develop that type of character, it can be difficult to break out of that when you get older in life and you start interacting with other people, because you'll have learned early on in life that to avoid confrontations or to avoid somebody having a violent outburst or whatever, you learn to diffuse situations before they get to that point. And oftentimes, diffusing situations before it gets to that point might mean taking the L in certain situations where you shouldn't really. Like, for example, something goes wrong and you apologize it before it even goes any further, even though it wasn't your fault. That's a good example of it. Let me use an example of this, right? There was one time when I was reading a book called The Watchmen. For any of you who are into comic books, you're probably familiar with that. It's a very famous comic by Alan Moore, who's a very famous comic book writer. He wrote a book called The Watchmen. I never actually finished it, actually, but a friend of mine lent me a copy of it, right? And I was reading it, and at the same time, my brother's girlfriend had a copy of it, and it was on the bookshelf. And because there was 2 copies on the bookshelf, I think I must have mixed his one with my one up, and I must have read part of it and then put it back on the bookshelf. It just so happened that the bookshelf that my mum had put up wasn't as secure as she thought it was, and the bookshelf fell off the wall, right? So some of the books fell off the wall, and they got a little, like, if they fell in an awkward position, you know how books are, sometimes the covers might get bent or something. So the copy of The Watchmen that my brother had, that was his girlfriend's, the cover got creased, right? What does my brother do? He comes in fucking no, my brother is someone, he's the type of guy that thinks with his fists, right? He's not that smart, but he's very quick to lash out and assert his authority, because he's a pretty big guy, right? So he comes at me, oh, what did you ruin the book for? What did you ruin the book for? I said, what are you talking about, man? What did you ruin the book for? I said, I didn't ruin the book. Yeah, look at the covers. It's ruined. Why'd you ruin it for? I said, look, the book was on the bookshelf. The bookshelf fell off the wall. That wasn't my fault. And it just so happened that it fell in a bad position. Yeah, but why did you put it on the bookshelf for? I was like, where the fuck am I supposed to put the book? I suppose this story is a bit later on in life, because at that time I wasn't eating shit for nobody, so I was giving as good as I got. But early on in life, in that type of situation, I would have apologized, like, oh, okay, let me buy a new one, and try and smooth it over before it got to fist flying and confrontation. But this is a story from later on in my life, when I really didn't give a shit anymore, and like so yeah, the point is that I use that situation to describe how sometimes people can take responsibility for more than they should. Now, I'm telling this story because the point I want to get to is, it's not your fault. And this is to brothers who maybe a little bit younger, and they're encountering situations where people are hostile to them for no reason, or stuff like that. You got to understand that, look, man, a lot of things that happen in life, it's not because of you. It's someone else's problem that they've got to deal with, but they project it onto you. So you've got to know when to accept responsibility for things, and when to leave things alone. Be like, you know what, man, that's not my problem, and it's not going to ruin my day. That's the point, because these things can ruin your day, bring you into a very, dark mindset, negative mindset, and bring you down. But the point in the matter is that I'm trying to say, don't let the world bring you down. Like, don't allow the world to disrupt your peace just because they've got some bullshit going on and they want to get aggy with you, aggressive, or whatever. A lot of what we experience in life is, people trying to bring you down to their level. And I'm not saying this to say that I'm trying to be arrogant or anything like that, but the point in the matter is that most people are arseholes in the world. Most people are arseholes, and most people will want, because they're having a bad time, they want you to have a bad time too. So they take pleasure in making your life a misery. And girls are very good at that, especially if you hook up with the wrong woman. Now, this is why I wanted to bring some precepts out, because what that woman that I saw in the Nando's and I approached, what she didn't realize is that I was probably the best thing she'll never have. Like that Beyonce song, The Best Thing You Never Had. What goes around comes back around. Hey, hey, my baby. That song, came out in 2011. Honestly, you turned out to be the best thing you never. Yeah, so we as men of the Lord, right, of the hopeful elect, if we are indeed called and chosen, we will indeed be the best thing that a lot of these women never had. What that woman probably didn't even realize, but she'll probably realize in the kingdom, is that that was a golden opportunity to talk to a man of the Lord. And that opportunity it doesn't come up very often. And she wasn't able to receive that opportunity. Not that I would have wanted to deal with her anyway, but just, realistically speaking, she could have been a bit more polite, for a simple question like that. So there's some precepts I want to bring out on that point, right? This is and also the other point I want to make is that not everybody, the Most High doesn't allow everybody to be in the presence of a man of the Lord. Some people are already like the Most High will block them from getting too close to the men of the Lord, because he doesn't want them around you. So that's a factor too. Now this scripture here says Ecclesiastes 7:26. I want to read one before this. I want to read 1 Timothy before I come back to this. 1 Timothy 2 and verse 15. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness and with sobriety. So woman's salvation is based upon her being with a man of the Lord. And they don't see the value in that on this side, because on this side they're in the world, you know, they look at you and it's like, who the fuck is this? But you never know. That could have been a man with a hopeful elect trying to talk to you, and you just shot yourself in the foot by, you know, being dismissive and cold and you know, basically having rancor. Let's look this word up, rancor. Rancor is bitterness, resentfulness, especially when non-standing. Yeah, that's exactly what the so-called nigger woman has towards the so-called Israelite man. Rancor, bitterness or resentfulness, especially when non-standing. Yeah, so that is exactly what the attitude the woman had. She was full of rancor, and she was cantankerous. Let's get that word. What the hell is this advert? Forgive me. Yeah, how do I get past this shit? This is ridiculous. What's this? There we go. And look, let's go from advert to ad. What the fuck is this shit, man? How do I get out of this? Look at this shit. It's forcing me to play this stupid ass game. What the hell is this? There you go. Fucking ruining my day, man. So, cantankerous, bad-tempered, argumentative, and uncooperative. He can be a cantankerous old fossil at times. Yeah, these women, especially so-called nigger women, right? Fucking cantankerous, man. Fucking cantankerous. That's what you're bringing to the table. Your stink-ass attitude, and oftentimes the fucking weak-ass weave. You know, bad attitude, weak weave. You know, cantankerous personality. Who'd want to deal with that? Nobody in their right mind would. That's why you got to keep your head screwed on, man. No, don't be allured. You know, they might have the big breasts and the big butt and all this kind of shit, but guess what? Everything carries a price tag, and if you're not careful, you might end up footing a bill, biting off more than you can chew. You know, put it that way. So where was I? Yeah, notwithstanding, she should be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith and charity with holiness and sobriety. Now, this one I want to get is Ecclesiastes 7:26. If I'm not mistaken. I think that's what it was. Ecclesiastes 7:26. It says, "And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands." But here's the point. "Whoso pleaseth the Most High shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken from her." Yeah, so as I said before, not everybody is allowed to be in the presence of a man of the Lord. Sometimes the Most High will make them invalidate themselves just so they don't come around your ass. And that's what that woman did yesterday with her flipping her dead fish eyes and her voice that dropped 2 octaves. Like, woo. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous, man. Very, very, very defensive. And all I was asking her if she's on the phone. It's like some of these girls, they get so gassed up, right? Just because you say hello to them, they think that you're begging for their attention or some shit like that. And it's like they get so like haughty with it, like as if like, you know, you're so beneath them or something. But it couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually the other way around. These women are actually beneath us. And this is why it's good to have a healthy mindset about this thing, because again, if you're in the world, like when I was younger, when I was in the world and I was encountering these you know, knockbacks when approaching certain girls, you know, you start to take it personally. It can affect your confidence and all kind of shit. But no, don't let it rock you. And in fact, really, I'll say this, right? We ain't even really supposed to be chasing after girls. Girls are supposed to be chasing after us, to be honest. And that's how it's going to go back into the kingdom. That's how it's going to go back to in the kingdom, where, you know, we ain't going to have to chase for no girl, man. Girls are going to be running us down. And, you know, men will be bringing us their daughters, the best of their daughters, hoping that we'll take them on, you know. And it's like we're going back into those times already, because Isaiah 4:1 is literally, it's pretty much at the door, you know. And a lot of these women are beginning to realize that you do need a man, and you do need a man that's got a spiritual mindset to him. But the more we get closer to the end of the society, they're going to realize that more and more. But the point I want to make is that there's also Isaiah 32:9, which is this. Isaiah 32 and verse 9. It says, "Rise up, you women that are at ease, and hear my voice, ye careless daughters, and give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women. For the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. Tremble, ye women that are at ease, be ye troubled, you careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. They shall lament for the teats, and for the pleasant fields, and for the fruitful vine." So as we accelerate further and further towards the end of Esau society, these women are waking up more and more to the fact that they do need a strong man. And a strong man isn't determined by how big his biceps are or how much he can bench press. It's more about your spiritual strength. See, spiritual strength isn't seen by the naked eye, but spiritual strength is what's seen by the Most High. And spiritual strength is what's going to be revealed in these last days, when Esau shuts down society and forces everybody into the MOTB, which is the mark of the beast. You're not going to be able to resist the mark of the beast by doing more press-ups or sit-ups or squats or bench pressing, whatever. That's not going to prevent you from taking the mark of the beast. What will prevent you from taking the mark of the beast is your spiritual strength, and also, you know, the grace of the Heavenly Father for putting the mark of Thawar upon you. But where does that come from? From you demonstrating your spiritual strength in believing and standing stiffly for the name of the Lord and His Son. And that strength is going to be what's revered in the kingdom to come, that the elect resisted unto death, the MOTB. But a lot of these men out here that are, you know, they've got the big chest and they look like they've all got it going on, or they might have the big bank balance or whatever, or the flash car or the sweet job, who these women are running after. Guess what? Them men are going to be as weak as hell in the hour of temptation. And their women are going to realize that too. Another thing as well is Isaiah 4:1. I'll just read that quickly. So there's no, Isaiah 4:1 is a prophecy and a promise. There's no need to be losing your sleep over if you haven't got a girl right now. Yeah, you may be burning, but, you know, all things in its season, man. This is coming. If you know this is coming, there's no need to stress. Isaiah 4:1 says, "And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread, and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach." So how does a woman take on a man's name? By marrying him. How is marriage, what is marriage according to the Bible? Sex. So these women are going to be throwing it up to the men of the Lord, hoping that they'll be able to escape their reproach by, you know, taking on a man of the Lord's name. Those days are coming. But there's another precept I had on my mind. What was it? Let me just try and meditate and find what it was. Bear me a second. Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter. That's it. See, a lot of these women who acted the way the woman in the restaurant acted towards me yesterday, with the stink-ass attitude and the, you know, confrontational, defensive tone and everything. They're gonna remember one day, or the Most High will reveal to them one day, yeah, I sent a man of the Lord. I sent a man of the Lord into your life, and you didn't recognize him. You know, this is what they'll be thinking. Wisdom of Solomon 5:1. "And then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labours. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all they looked for. And they, repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit, shall say within themselves, This was he, whom he had sometimes in derision, and a proverb of reproach. We fools accounted his life madness, and his end to be without honour. how is he numbered amongst the children of the Most High, and his lot is among the saints? Therefore have we erred from the way of truth, and the light of righteousness have not shined unto us, and the sun of righteousness rose not upon us. We wearied ourselves in the way of wickedness and destruction, yea, where there lay no way, but as for the way of the Lord we have not known it. What of pride profited us, or what good have riches with our vaunting brought us? There you go. So, yeah, a lot of people will wake up to the fact that, yeah, you thought that you was on top, when in reality you wasn't on top at all, but you just had a haughty, nasty, stink-ass, cantankerous attitude, and you're going to end up eating the fruit of your ways as a result of it, man. So, yeah, that's it. But the point of the matter is that I do kind of wish that earlier on in life I didn't have to learn these harsh lessons the hard way, the first hand. But then at the same time, man's goings off the Lord. It's a good thing that I learned these lessons the way that I did, because it gave me the wisdom to be able to avoid getting caught up with, maybe someone that wasn't appropriate, and that would have led my life down a horrible, path. As I said before, read this one again. Ecclesiastes 7:26. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth the Most High shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. So at the end of the day, that woman's attitude towards me yesterday, the defensive tone and everything like that, that was actually the Most High delivering me from what was probably a wicked woman anyway. And so sometimes you've got to be spiritual and realize that sometimes a rejection isn't really a rejection at all. It's actually the Lord saving you from falling into a dark pit where you might end up getting with a woman and she wrecks your whole life, man. So yeah, man, Lord willing, that's edifying. I'll wrap it up there. So with that on, once again, give all praises, honor and glory unto Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahushai, B'Hashem, Hachadash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of great men, stone it rule well. And shalom to the 144,000 elect men of the nation of Israel, and the rest of the elect that are destined to be saved. And I'll catch you on the next lesson, Lord willing. Shalom for now.